Hello, everyone. It's your girl, Dr. Shauna Etienne, here on Fly Nubian Queen, the network for melanated women. And we are going to have relationship talk one day earlier than the norm. I know I'm usually scheduled to go on Thursdays and Fridays, but as many of you guys know, tomorrow is Turkey Day. Some people say Thanksgiving, but I don't see anything thankful in the giving of killing Indians. However, tomorrow is Turkey Day. So because of that reason, I will not be live tomorrow with Relationship Talk, but I am live today. And we're going to have a juicy conversation. It's going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit different. So I suggest people get their pens and papers, because I'm going to take you on a little history lesson. I'm going to give you a little bit of history to understand, or to have a better understanding, or a possible better understanding, I'll put it that way, of why some Black men are not choosing marriage. So that is what we're going to be talking about today. So as you guys come on in, just say hello to me so I can know that you are here. Be so kind to share the video with your friends and your family, because this may provide some understanding for some people who are like so ready for marriage like yesterday. And so I think it's an appropriate time to have this conversation, being that Thanksgiving is tomorrow, Christmas is next month, New Year's is the following month, Valentine's Day follows after New Year's, and these are all the holidays in which many people hope to get engaged because they are aspiring for marriage. Right? Everybody want to be married. Nonetheless, I want to give you guys some information. So I see Janice is on, and Janice says she is so ready. Hey, Janice, how you doing? I see my girl Rita is on, Dwayne, Bruce, Tina. I love all of you guys. Yes, my beautiful sisters. We are about to get it on and popping. So as we're preparing, guys, just share the video if you can. I'm going to be sharing the video as well in this process so that I can make sure my friends, my family, and my community is on this channel as well, as we're about to have this conversation. What do I want to tell you guys before we get started? Because once I get going, y'all know sometimes I forget to bring up things. I want y'all to know to subscribe to our network. That's important for us to do that. Facebook is on a roll. We're shutting many of us down. So I want you to go ahead to our website and subscribe to flynubianqueen.com. That way, when we go live, when we have events, and we're planning a conference for our women. So when we go live and we have events, you're going to be able to be notified, because we never know when Facebook is going to shut our page down. And when they shut down our page, we lose contact to all of you guys. So all 420,000 of you guys will be lost, and we don't want that to happen. Hey, Leah, how are you, beautiful? Leah is saying, I'm actually scared of marriage. She says she's 30 and she feels there's a lot of stress involved. Leah, there is a lot of stress involved, but that's with any relationship, even the relationship you have with your boss. There's always a lot of stress involved. So hopefully after today, Leah, you'll go into this, if you do choose to get married, hopefully you'll have a better understanding of what's happening. Okay, y'all ready? We're about to get it on and popping. So I'll try to contain myself, because these kind of topics, for those of you guys who follow me on Dr. Shauna here on Facebook, when you follow me there, you know sometimes when I talk about these topics, I'll be getting it on and popping. I'll be ready. But I'm the marriage counselor on Fly Nubian Queen. I want to be able to teach you guys a little something or two. And I'm going to try to contain myself. I see my sister Michi X is on. That's my girl. What's up, Michi? Here we go. Listen. The question I always get when people come into my office and they are single and they want to get married and they're in a relationship with a man that they've been with for years and they're living together, some of them have children together, and still in all, marriage is not being proposed. The couple feels, or the woman, generally speaking, I'm generalizing here because most of the time it's the women, they want to move the relationship forward with legalizing their relationship, legitimizing, as they would say, their relationship. So they start the pressure of marriage, and they're not understanding why this man doesn't marry me. But I want to give you guys another perspective. There are multiple reasons why some men choose not to marry, right? Some people would say a man is not going to marry you till he has all his ducks in a row, till he is financially secure and ready. Some people would say a man is not going to marry you until he has all his games out of the way, all his fun and games and extra women and all these things out of the way. Some people would say a man is not going to marry you because blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of reasons for why men don't marry. And I'm not saying that these reasons are not legitimate. I want to give you guys another perspective. I want to bring in a different perspective because, as many of you guys know, I am an African-centered couples therapist. And what that means is I operate from an Afrocentric perspective. I look at things through my eyes as an African woman. And I see things through systematic oppression, structural racism, and social constructs. I see things in that manner. So I want to bring you guys back on a little history lesson so we can fully understand how we got into this condition when there's so many homes occupied by African women and men. And when I say African, you guys can remove the word African if it bothers you, and you can replace it with Black if it makes you comfortable. But those of you other people that don't want to be called Black, you can replace it with whatever you want. Then I have some people that may not be either, and they consider themselves of color. If you want to replace it and say, I'd rather use the term of color, I don't care what terminologies you use. If you have melanated skin, you fall under this category as well. So just get your pens and your papers, be prepared to learn, take some notes, and let's go on, because when I get into my history lesson, everything you can verify. Everything I give you, you can go ahead, and don't trust me. You go ahead and do your own research. So make sure you share the video so we can get everybody on this page and listen to the conversation. And don't forget to subscribe to our network here on Fly Nubian Queen on Facebook and Fly Nubian Queen at our website. Here we go. I want to bring you guys back to some harmful policies that the U.S. American government had put into place way back yonder. There's no need for me to explain to you guys the condition of African people after the emancipation of slavery. We already know the harsh conditions we face. And we also know during those times we were a little bit more united. Not that some of us are not united, because some of us are, but we were obviously united during that time because we had no other choice but to be united. We have no other choice at those times but to structure our communities and to keep our families intact. And so we really did operate under that ideology of it takes a village to raise an entire child, right? One child and all this other stuff. And we already know there's another saying to that cliche, so to speak. But it was like that. Then as we started to go on, we are a part of American history. So when America suffers in terms of economically, when America suffers, we as melanated people, we suffer even more, right? So if I'm going to take you guys back to 1929 during the era of the Great Depression, this is going to make a lot of sense. Now remember, we were doing our own little things because at that time in the 20s, we were segregated. We weren't mixed. We were educating our own. We were raising our own children. We were supporting each other. We was doing things separate from white America. But when white America suffers, when white America's money is funny, then us melanated people, our change gets strange. So we started to suffer during the Great Depression as well. The Great Depression brought about economic recession. There was no money to be made, or very little money to be made. It brought about high unemployment. Even if you were self-employed as an African woman or African man, the rates of your business thriving also impacted you, because we all weren't completely working for ourselves. Some of us was working for the man as well. And y'all know what I mean when I say the man. We were working for white America as well. And so when white America hit a recession, when they started to struggle, y'all already know how we are as black folks, right? And I hate to say these things, but listen, history done proves it over and over again, and it continues to prove itself. When we are the last to get hired, we are the first to get fired. So that's what was happening. We had high unemployment rates for those of us who left our communities to go work in their communities, whether we were cleaning their homes, whether we were helping them build houses, railroad tracks, it doesn't matter. when the economy fell, our men and some of our women lost their jobs, and they were sent back to their house with no money coming in. So there was a recession, there was high unemployment, and there was a loss of jobs. Jobs as it related to the construction industry, jobs as it related to the shipping industry, jobs that related to the mining industry, jobs that related to the agriculture industry. So let me stop there for a second when I talk about agriculture. Because yes, when we think about us Africans or American Africans here in the North, we think about an industry that's booming. We think about jobs going to stores, all these things, right? But majority of us as melanated people, majority of us have migrated from the South. Many of us was living in the South, which is really impacted by agriculture. Even to this day, is big farmland. So when the agriculture community was hit, our farmers were not selling their crops. They weren't making any money. And then you got to also understand that even though we had our own farms during that time, white people are pulling back. They're not going to come and give us money. They're not going to come and buy our crops and stuff when they know that even they are starving. So they're automatically going to organize and mobilize and fund their own community, which leaves our community hard hit. So our men are out there. Our men are out there, they're farming, they're doing all the stuff, but then they can't sell their crops. They can't bring cash into their home. So their families were suffering even greater than white families who were suffering as well. And then the other area that got hit for my northern people, let's go to the north now, right? To the north and fully out west, right? So our northern people were suffering as well because they were in like manufacturing businesses. And when I talk about manufacturing, I'm talking about automobiles and industries such as that. So when those companies got hit, when they weren't being able to produce as many cars because the cars weren't being sold, for an example, as fast as it used to be sold, guess what happened? They started to lay off all these black men. So here we are. We have a community of people who don't have any money, who is suffering, and the whole world is suffering. But we were suffering even greater because we already had it hard coming approximately 1 to 2 generations out of being enslaved Africans here in America. You got that history, right? You got that history so far, right? So let's go on. Now we're going to take it from 1929. We're going to fast forward to approximately 1932, 1933, where we have President Roosevelt, and he came out with the New Deal program. So now the economy is doing bad. So he comes up with this brilliant idea that he is going to recover the economy. And he's going to recover the economy by providing some relief to the unemployment rates that were happening in America. And not only is he going to do that, he's also going to reform the financial system. Now, this sounds really, really good. This sounds like something that we absolutely want to support. So many of us Africans at that time, we were considered, or not considered, that's the wrong word I'm using, charges to my head and not my heart. We were registered as Republicans. So now the New Deal comes. The New Deal comes, and Roosevelt is saying he's going to help us out, and everybody is going to be helped. Everyone is going to come out of this financial slump. I'm going to help with these programs. I'm going to make sure funding is there, housing is there, our children are getting food to eat. They're not starving. So black people are getting excited, right? Because you already know we are used for our votes all the time. No, this is not a political video, but that is part of history. We have to have a full understanding to understand why some of our black men are not chosen marriage to this day. Y'all make sure y'all share the video. Come on and share the video. So here it is. He comes out with this New Deal program. And then all of us who were mainly Republicans, we said, you know what? We're going to switch our party. We're going to go over to the Democratic Party, and we're going to vote for President Roosevelt because he is going to help us, right? They go that white savior complex. We always think that the U.S. government is going to save us. So Roosevelt comes into place, and then he comes up with a beautiful program. So we thought, and we said, you know what? This is great. We have aid to dependent children. Initially, it was called ADC. We're going to have aid to dependent children. Because here I am a mother. My man don't have a job. My man can't bring in food. The ceiling is leaking. My children are starving. Our shoes have holes in it. We can't survive. And the president, the good old president that we voted in, is going to give us some aid so we can survive. So they go ahead and they develop the aid to dependent children, which was later changed to aid to families with dependent children. And I'll tell you why I changed it. I'm going to tell you why I changed that a little later. So now the aid comes in because the aid is all part of the New Deal. So we thought it was a new disaster, but they called it a New Deal. And we got fools because you got to remember, we're coming two generations, right? 1 or 2 generations out of slavery. We're coming out of that. So we're still trusting these folks to take care of us. Whether it is a subconscious thing or is a conscious thing, we are trusted in believing that they're going to do right by us because good old President Lincoln promised us that we're going to have it better. And we're still waiting. So we don't lose hope. And what the New Deal did was it subsidized the income for families who had fathers who were either deceased. And listen to what I'm saying now. So the aid to dependent children, it was originally structured for families who the father of the children or of the wife, the woman in the home, the fathers were either deceased, the fathers were absent for whatever reason, or the fathers was unable to work. Unable, not unwilling, but unable. Maybe they were blind. Maybe they were handicapped. Whatever the case is, they were unable to work. So the New Deal said, let's go ahead and help these women out because we need to really make sure our children are eating. But here's the okie doke. The program was not designed for African women. You hear me, right? The program was not designed for us African women. The program was initially designed for white single mothers who were expected to not have to work. You hear me? They were expected to not have to work because you know what? As we know with the history, the white women, this is what their whole complaint is. This is why they're always trying to go for equal rights, and they're going after the white man, and they want to be respected as a woman and respected as a contributor to society because historically white women were not expected to work. They were expected to stay home and take care of their children. And many of them were married, right? So their men, their husbands were in war. Because remember, it started to get crazy during this time. Remember, we had World War II come up on us, right? So it started to get crazy. They started to get kind of like psycho. The world was in chaos. We had World War I. We had World War II. We had so many things happening. And some of the men, black men as well, but they weren't concerned about our black men. They were concerned about the white men. And the white men, some of them did not come back home. The ones that did came back home, they were unable to work because they were handicapped. And then others was MIA, or they were prisoners of war. So they were absent from the home, not because they wanted to, but because they weren't able to come to the home. They weren't dead, but they were taken as prisoners of war and other things like that. So these white women were not expected to work. You already follow me there, right? You already follow me there. For those of you guys who are coming on right now, what I am doing at this very moment is giving a brief history to understand why in this current society, in this current day, 2018, entering into 2019, why some of our black men choose not to get married. I want you guys to understand the psychological underpinnings that happen to get us in a position where we are right now. And not only the psychological underpinnings, I want you guys to also understand the structural and systemic oppression that has happened, that has kept our men subconsciously turned off to marriage. Listen to what I just said. So thank you for joining in. Make sure you go ahead and share the video so that other people can be a part of this little history lesson while we get into the other important information. So going back to the story. So then you had this law, this aid to dependent children, and black mothers were not entitled to get aid to their children. The reason why Black mothers were not entitled to get aid to their children was simply for the fact that Black women had always been a part of the labor force, and Black women were expected to work. Listen to what I'm saying, people. Listen to what I'm saying, people. So when you get this whole idea that we, some of us have these ideas, and I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad. I just want you to listen to what I'm saying for a second. Some of us get these ideas in our heads that we want to be home with a man that provides everything for the household. And it does happen for many people, or let me not say many people because that would be inaccurate. It does happen for some of us Black folk, but the majority on the macro level, this is not the norm. This doesn't really happen. That ideology has never been part of us here in America, because since the days of enslaved Africans here in American slavery or American chattel slavery, Black women had been working. All right. So let's not forget that. You guys take the time to share the video. Let me share this video. So Black women, getting back to the conversation, Black women were not able to benefit from the aid to dependent children because they were expected to work. Now you want to fast forward into the 60s, and that law started to change. Now let me just go ahead and make that very clear what I just said, because I know some people are getting onto this video kind of late, and some people, because I got a New York accent, some people may have missed what I said. When I first started out with the history, I told you guys at about 1932 to 1933, the law under the New Deal came about providing aid to dependent children, the welfare program that was known as ADC. That was 1932, 1933, somewhere around there. Now fast forward to 1961 with the movement of the civil rights, right? The civil rights movement. That law started to change to include unemployed men. Unemployed men. That law also, under the civil rights movement, started to include Black women. But now don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. Because we know how that goes. Once we start getting included in some of these laws, in some of these policies that can potentially provide some relief to us, that can potentially provide some assistance, there's always a little change. There's always an addendum. There's always an amendment. Something always changed to pull the rug from under our feet. So here it is, the civil rights comes about. And they said, okay, because that things are getting heated, the civil rights is upon us, let's go ahead and let the Black women get into this benefit, this policy as well, right? Make no mistake. See, people tend to believe that when Black women were allowed to start receiving some aid to dependent children, they believe that we have been the welfare queens. That's what propaganda, and that is what media will have you believe based on some of the television shows that we see, right, that were put it out there, and some of the movies that were out there that would make it seem like we were the all-American queen of welfare. But there were more white women, and it still remains more white people to this day on welfare than it was Black people, because we were not able to get any assistance, even though our men were suffering unemployment and our men were hit the hardest with the recession. Y'all remember that movie? Let me defer a little bit for a second. Y'all remember that movie? What was the name of that movie? Come on, y'all, help me out, because sometimes y'all know my brain don't work. I mean, she was on welfare, share all the kids, and every time the caseworker came to the home, she had to hide all the stuff. Y'all remember that movie, right? It's really, really old. Come on, y'all. What's the name of the movie? Come on now. Come on now. What's the name of the movie? Y'all gonna have to help me out with this. But anyway, I hear it is the name of the woman. It's right there in my head. Good Lord, good Lord, good Lord, good Lord. Anyway, it's gonna come to me. Someone's gonna put it up there. I don't want to waste any time trying to remember the movie. But that was like, they took some of the truth, and they hit it with other stuff. Claudine. Thank you, Tiffany. See, Tiffany is the girl.com. I love you, Tiffany. Thank you. Claudine. Claudine. So that movie came out because that was really depicting what was happening. So in the 60s, not only did the civil rights movement come to change some of the laws, but it also changed how it was happening when it relates to to aid to dependent children, ADC. And when the civil rights happened, Black women were allowed to now come onto the program, and in addition, they changed the name to include families. So now the welfare program, the New Deal program, changes from aid to dependent children to aid to families with dependent children. So now with that coming in, we're in there, and that was requiring, the law started to change. They started to shift, because now the law that was initially designed for white women, now Black women is able to come through it. Let me tell you about the okie doke about what the government does. This whole thing is systemic, but while our Black men today, believe it or not, take your notes, write it down, this whole thing is systemic to why our Black men today are not working. Well, I mean, not working, why they're not getting married, okay? So the law comes in, the law shifts, and they bring the Black women in. So they said, oh no, we don't want these Negroes, these ninjas, taking up the money that we're entitled to. So they start putting in little changes in the laws, and they start coming up with little slick ass strategies to try to, keep us from being able to receive benefit, to give us some relief during this time. So they started to require paternity tests of the children. So if you're going to go and you're going to get welfare at this time to get any assistance because your man lost his job, and every time the recession hits, or every time America experiences an economic hiccup, the Black men suffers and they get out of work for a little bit, and then the women have to hold down a spot. So we say, with this program, we're entitled to aid now. Thank God for the civil rights. Can you please give us some aid? Right? We helped to get you into the chair. We voted for you. We're entitled to this benefit, right? That's what we start to think. But then they said, oh, no. Not too fast, ninjas. Not too fast, you little ninjas. What we need to do is make sure we test for paternity. To make sure that he is the father of these children. And once they started to do that, they also started to extend extend the benefits to unemployed males. Now, check this out. Some people might say, well, that makes sense. Because sometimes we don't understand how policies and laws are developed, and we don't understand whether the consequences are intended or unattended. We don't fully understand how these policies and these laws eventually come back to bite us in the ass, and it comes back to hurt us. So now, not only are they requiring an establishment of paternity, they're also saying, once that is established, now if you have an unemployed male in the house, you can also potentially get benefits as well. But here's the thing, my beautiful brothers and sisters, that unemployed male in the house had nothing to do with the father. Do you hear what I'm saying? Let me repeat that again, because some people is not getting it. Some people's not getting it. That unemployed male, the rule that they extended the welfare benefits to households that also contains an unemployed male, but that unemployed male could not be the father of those children. Could not be the father of those children. So Dr. Shauna, who might be the unemployed male? Well, you got to understand, like if we go back to the movie Claudine, she had teenage sons in the house, right? So sometimes we even have in our Black homes where our children are home in their 20s with us. Because before, you could not have any male in the house because it was about absent fathers and all this other stuff. And they said, that doesn't make sense because some people have children and children become men and they're still under the care of their mothers, but they should not be held financially responsible to the care of their siblings. So we have to include them, but they cannot be the father of the children. So how did they get around that? They started to test the people. They started to test the people to make sure that they were not the fathers of the children. Then they say, wait a minute, hold up a second. Not only can unemployed men in the house be allowed to be in a house in order for the mother to get the employment, the benefits of welfare, but they also have to have a work history. Come on now, I'm telling you guys, these laws get even more slick. They get very slick as the days go by. So now these unemployed men, like the adult children in the house, they have to have a work history. A work history, meaning in order for this woman to get money, some services and assistance to come into the house, the male that resides in the house has to have a work history showing that he's looking for work, he's workable, whatever the case is. But didn't you say back in the 30s that was intended for fathers who were deceased, fathers who was absent, and fathers who were unable to work? But now all of a sudden they have to have a work history. So it gets kind of funny. Anytime the law changes to bring us in, they start to amend the law and make other policy changes to keep us down. Let me see it. After that, y'all can look all of this up. Y'all ain't gotta believe me. Look everything up. Don't believe me, the researcher. I don't know nothing. I'm just over here just talking craziness, right? After they did that, they decided it was going to switch it a little more, right? Because now, you know, in the 60s, we already know how it was for our black men in the 60s. Our family units started to break down. They don't have any income. All these different welfare laws out there. You can't have a man in a house. The men in the house cannot have paternity, cannot be established fathers in the house. So now women have no choice but to keep the men out of the house, because now this is about survival. So what these laws actually did is discourage marriage. Come on now, I'm about to get there. Y'all better stay with me. Stay with me, I'm about to get there. It discouraged marriage. So then they come out with the man in the house rule. Somebody write that down. The man in the house rule. The man in the house rule. So basically what that says is aid to families with dependent children. No man can be in a house. They went from a male, an unemployed male that's not the father, to no man can be in the house. Come on now. You're seeing how this is happening, right? I want you to think critically. Let's follow the bouncing ball to why some of our black men are not getting married. They're not getting married. So now all of a sudden, I'm getting there, just follow me. All of a sudden, men were not allowed to be in the homes. If this family is going to survive, and is going to survive with the help of the government via AFDC, Aid to Families with Dependent Children, we cannot have any men living in that home. So what is the woman left to do when the man is unemployed anyway? Well, he's unemployed because he was the last to me. He was the first to get fired. He has no income. Even if he's hustling a legitimate job, no one is bringing him business because everybody he's selling to in his community is without money as well, because they are also fired. They cannot get hired. They're getting beat down. They're getting killed. They're getting locked up. So now the women is saying, it's between me and my children's survival, or is you. Or is you. And they may not be verbally saying this, but these are the thoughts. Now the structure of America is coming down on the shoulders of the black woman and the black man. It is weighing heavy. And as we know, moms, as we know, ladies, that when it comes to our children surviving, we're going to do whatever we have to do to survive. And if we did not have the knowledge and the understanding of history and relationships, we're doing only what we saw our mothers do. Now, what am I saying, Dr. Shauna? What am I saying? See, if you follow the bouncing ball, I just brought you from the 30s all the way up into the 60s. That's a whole generation. That's one whole generation. Now, why is that important? That's important because not only is that a whole generation from the 30s into the 60s, but now when all these laws started to change in the 30s, we already saw mommy putting men out. We already saw men not being able to provide in the home with mommy. We already saw men turning to alcohol because they're stressed and they're coming home drunk, and then mommy's just tired, and mommy's like, you gotta go. We're ready for mommy and daddy arguing all the time because there's no food in the house, there's no money in the house, the lights got shut off, we're all sleeping in one room under a heater. I'm not making this stuff up. Go on and do your history. We're all sleeping in one room because that's the only room that we can stay warm, because it's by the kitchen where we have the stove on to heat up our apartment because they turned off our lights and stuff. So that's stressful for a woman, when she got to wake up every day and see her kids on the floor, and her kids are hungry, and her kids are starving, and she's cleaning white people's houses for but so much money, and she got a man there, but he's unable to provide because the system has set it up that he is unable to survive and provide for his family. So she got a decision to make. I can go ahead and ask this white government for money to feed my family, or I can stay struggling with the possibility of my children getting sick and taken ill. So what am I to do? So she goes on to the white man's door, the U.S. government, and she asks for assistance. Then she meets Becky. She meets Becky, and Becky says, well, where's the father at? Well, we're going to need him to come in and take a paternity test. And I just want you to know, no man can be in your household. So when we come onto the household, no man can be there. And if the men are there, you're going to run the risk of losing your food stamps and losing all your benefits and being homeless. So if you don't want to see yourself on the street, try not to break any of our laws, our rules, and our regulations. So she has no choice but to follow it. In a plan, you can't be seen here. You can't be seen here. So at the same time, her children, because remember, I told you, I took you a generation from the 30s to the 60s. Her children is watching mommy make that decision without having the comprehension or the understanding of what's to come, the detrimental impact of seeing their father leave the home. Because it makes an imprint on our subconscious, and it gives our children an understanding, even though it's false, but an understanding or a false belief, a false understanding of how relationships ought to work. So the man has to leave the home. So now this mother is raising her children without her man in the home, and he's only coming sometimes. He's coming in the night, leaving in the wee early hours of the morning, because he doesn't know when welfare is going to knock on the door, just like the movie Claudine. So he can't be in a home. He can't be in a home. So he chooses to stay away, and the children don't have the cognitive ability to be able to rationalize or understand why this is happening. So Letitia and Quanasia grows up, and they become women, and they get in a relationship with a man, and they're hoping everything is going to work out and everything is going to be good. And then he loses his job. By now they got a baby on the way. Now we're going into the 60s. We're going into the 60s, and they say, you know, you got to get married because you have a baby on the way. So they go ahead and get married, but now they're struggling because she has to take care of the kids because the child is now born, and he can't find reliable work. He goes to work for the white man today. The white man says, oh, times is hard. You know, we're entering a recession. We got to cut your job. And then he's without a job. So he comes home. Now she got these babies, and she can't afford to live. And the only thing that she's left to do is the same thing that her mother did, when she had to go and knock on the white man's door and ask the white government for some money to help her, because she got young kids, and her man can't keep a job because the system is not hiring him. So she did what her mother did. And she goes and she meets the daughter of Miss Becky. And then the daughter of Miss Becky says, who are the father of these children? I'm going to need him to come in to do a paternity test. Oh, he's not present. He doesn't reside in a home. Well, while having Miss Quanasia, that's a good thing that he doesn't reside in a home, because the law says that no man can be in the house. And I would not want you to run the risk of losing your benefits, because you have young children, Miss Quanasia, that you have to tend to and care for. And if you lose your benefits, chances are, Miss Quanasia, you're going to be on the street. She now experiences the same thing that her mother experienced. And so she makes a decision. And she goes back home. And she says, Ramon, I don't know if it's safe for you to be here. Because the lady down at welfare said if you get caught in the house, then my aid is going to get cut off. And if my aid is going to get cut off, then my children are not going to be able to eat. And then we're going to be out on the street, and then we're all going to be suffering. Can you just stay at your friend's house until this works itself out? We're not going to be on this welfare for long. You're going to be able to get a job. I believe, Ramon, that this is going to work. So now you're asking him to leave behind his children. Not only is out on his shoulders, he has to now make a critical decision. Do I want my children to starve and end up on the street, or can I leave until I get myself together? So he makes a decision. And he says, I am going to leave the home because I don't want my children on the streets. And I'm going to do what I have to do as a man. I'm going to find a job. I'm going to do better. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to come back in the home, and my kids ain't going to need no welfare from the government. This is his thought process. This is his thought process. So he's a little sad. He's a little sad. So let's take it into the 70s. 10 years later, now we in the 70s, and drugs and stuff is hitting our streets. And somebody introduces our brother to some drugs. And now he can't really get a job because now the drugs has already consumed his body, and the alcohol has already taken over his thinking and his functioning. And now the children are seeing him break down, and mama makes another decision. You can no longer come back home. I cannot have you around my kids like this. So now she has daughters and sons in another situation, in another generation, seeing once again the same thing she experienced with her mother, seeing her, their mother, just like their grandmother, put the man out the house. Now the man is out the house. So now this has now become another generation, the second generation that has conceptualized the normality of men being absent from the house. So it's okay now to have children and be unwed. It's okay now because you can always go to the government and get some help. Just in case your man can't provide. So that's what it started to do. It started to break up the families. And then somebody said, this is not right, this is not right, we got to change it. This is how it always goes. This is how it always goes. We get a little bit upset. We start protesting. It's not right, it's not right, it's not right. We got to change the situation. We had the Black Panther with the 10-point, what we want, y'all know the 10-point program, what we want, right? They want equal treatment. They want breakfast for the kids. They want all this stuff. They want food. They want housing. They want all this stuff. So they make a little adjustment. They make a little adjustment. Then they say, you know what? We're going to say men can come in the house, but the men cannot function like they are the substitute parent. Look this up. Don't believe me. You can come into the house, but you cannot be the parent or the substitute parent, hence the step parent. That's what a substitute parent is. You cannot be the parent. You cannot be the substitute parent for the children. So how do you become a substitute parent? You become a step parent through marriage. You become a step parent through marriage. You become a substitute father through marriage. So it's okay for you to lie up in the house with a man, but it can't be somebody you are married to. That's basically what it's saying. You cannot be married to him, and you cannot have children by him. So it's further breaking down our Black families, and the children are seeing this. Now we're into the 80s and into the 90s. Oh, baby, y'all hearing me? We're into the third generation. Are you listening to me, my brothers and sisters? Because this program did not end, so they say, until 1996, when TANF came out. Temporary aid to needy families. Am I talking to somebody here? Am I talking to somebody here? I hope y'all are with me. 1996. That's 22 years ago. My daughter is 20 years old. So now you have a third generation seeing once again daddy being put out the home. Daddy not being allowed in the home. Now when you have 3 generations of this happening, it is normalized. It is the normalized behavior. It's called pathology. It's called pathology. So when people come into my clinical office and what you see in my background, and they sit on my couch and what you see in my background, and I put on the board, the whiteboard, and I start doing their genogram, and I start breaking down the 3 generations and their family from their grandparents, their parents, and them, they start to see a trend that everybody had children, but nobody was married. Or at least the grandparents were married, but then the mommies weren't married, or granddaddy died early, leaving grandma to raise the kids on welfare. Right? And then the mama on welfare. They start to see with their own eyes, and it's clear. I break down the paternal family, I break down the maternal family, and I draw all the conclusions based on the stories that they tell me. It's not my story. I ask questions, they answer, and I put it on a board in the form of a picture. And then they're able to see. And people lose their minds. Because this stuff happens so fast. And if we lack the history, we lack the understanding, we don't even know what the American government has done to our families. So the American government has discouraged marriage. And we're raising generations of children under the system that has discouraged marriage for our Black families. And this has existed for 60 years. That's anywhere from 2 to 3 generations, depending on the age you are when you have a child. 2 to 3 generations of seeing this systematic deconstruction of the Black family unit. And we're not being aware that this has lasting effects, generational effects. Now, I want to make this very clear. This is not to all Black families, because somebody might say, well, Dr. Shauna, well, why was it when everybody in my family was married? Or this has never happened in my family. I get them all the time in my office. And then I rely on my trusty busty genogram. And when I start asking them questions to uncover what's happening in their family dynamics, I also notice that many, the ones that don't experience this, is more that do than don't, but the ones that don't experience this come from a family line of education. Did y'all hear what I'm saying? They come from a family line of education. A history of college education, a history of some form at that time. See, the times are changing right now, but we're talking about during that time, during that period, some forms of security. Now you got to remember, historically Black colleges and universities, HBCUs, many of them was established in the 1800s. Many of them was established in the 1800s after the emancipation, when it became legal to educate enslaved Africans. So when that passes down from family to family, their mind is already conditioned to do what? To think more like white folks. And I'm not trying to be funny. You can look this all up. I'm just telling you what it is. I'm just telling you what it is. I always tell somebody, test me, baby. Do your own research. Test me. Because I'll give you citations galore. Test me. You understand what I'm saying? So when you see some of those families, they have histories of education, they have marriage, they have all that stuff to keep their families intact. But majority of our families did not have that experience. Some of us in my age group, and a little older, right? I'm in my 40s. Some of us in my age group and a little older, we're first generation graduates. First generation graduates. Think about the dynamics here, people. Think about the dynamics here. Think about how long we've been subjected to this. And what do you think that's going to have on your family unit? It has devastating effects. Lasting effects. So here you have, fast forward 1996. 1996, President Clinton comes into the chair and he changes the law of dependent children. And he comes out with TANF, temporary aid to needy families. But at the same time, a shift started to happen because even white Americans were experiencing a decrease in marriage. Because in the 70s, the law was changed, and what they started to do was bring about no-fault divorce. Because before, previous to that, you couldn't get divorced too easily. It was illegal. It wasn't going to happen. So then they brought out no-fault divorce, meaning you no longer have to prove why you should be able to get divorced. That was not for the black woman, ladies and gentlemen. That was for the white woman. So now all of a sudden, white America starts experiencing an increase in divorce. Not as much as us. Even to this day, not as much as us. But they started to experience an increase in divorce. So then guess what started to happen? When that increase in divorce happened, you know what they say, we can't be looking like these ninjas. We can't be looking at these ninjas. We got to change this. So propaganda kicks in. And propaganda starts increasing the ante in the 90s, the late 90s into the early 2000s, starts increasing the ante of all the commercials and media and propaganda as it relates to marriage. And every time you see a promotion of marriage, you do not see black folk. Come on now. I dare somebody to challenge me. You don't see black folk from the 90s to the early 2000s. Cage Jewelers, you see nothing but white folks. Hertz Diamonds, nothing but white folks. Tiffany, nothing but white folks. Then you see Lexus come out with their car commercial with a big bow on it. And you see the white family run outside for Christmas. And then the white family bought themselves a car or boat. That's how propaganda works. And anytime you see a commercial and she's all enjoying her kids and her kids is in the background and her kids are running around, you see a ring on her finger. But when you see a black woman, you see nothing on her finger. And she got kids. She got kids all around her and ain't got no ring on her finger. So what do you think that does to the subconscious mind when the subconscious mind is seeing through the use of propaganda? No married black people. It sends a subtle message that does not have to be communicated in words that says marriage is not important. Yeah. I understand marriage is a social construct. I understand that. But see, we're not talking about social constructs right now. What we're talking about is conditioning. What we're talking about is social engineering. What we're talking about is systemic oppression. What we're talking about is structural oppression. What we're talking about is programming. Come on now, somebody go ahead and share the video because I'm about to get on out of here. I'm about to make my point. I'm about to get on out of here. Somebody go ahead and share the video because people need to hear this. People need to hear and understand what's going on because yes, I'm a marriage counselor, but I got to let you guys know that when I operate here in this office and in this business, when I operate under understanding of the black being under attack. Being under attack. Strategically is under attack. And so when I have women coming into my office and they're so ready to get married, I have to break it down so they can understand why they're struggling a little bit harder than anybody else. They got to be able to understand it. Because it's been 3 generations of programming that says black men are not as valuable. 3 generations of conditioning 3 generations of social engineering that has programmed the minds of young children who grew up into adults and don't even understand why they believe what they believe, meaning it's not necessary for me to get married to have a child with you. And although the idea is legitimate, it makes sense, but the structure is very dangerous. It's very dangerous to the community, and the government knew that because the government understands that. The government's job was to keep the white families intact and to keep them surviving and thriving. It was never designed for you to thrive and for you to survive. And only because the change of civil rights, they had to give you a little something, something. So they threw you the bone with no meat on it. And we have learned to accept less. So now we have the women's minds programmed through the use of propaganda that they are to get married, especially around Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and Valentine's Day. Come on now, this is getting too complicated now. I'm trying to keep it there because my time is up. My time is up. I got 5 minutes on the clock. My time is up. My show is only for an hour. My time is up. So you have all these men with generational programming of their subconscious mind to let them know that they don't even have to be involved. The woman is going to survive. She's going to be all right. She's going to be taken care of through hell and high water. So I don't have to show up to be a man, not because I don't want to, but because I don't know how to, because there was no role model or figure in my life that was there to teach me. And the only thing I saw was my mama put my father out. And my mama raised us. And my mama be strong and provide. So now I have this subconscious programming that tells me as a man that the woman's job is to provide. See, the reason why it's subconscious programming is because it happens in your subconscious and you're not even aware of it. You're not even aware of it. But all your actions are dictated by your subconscious mind. So now all your behavior says, I don't have to marry you because I never seen daddy marry mommy. And if they did get married, mommy put them out. So my belief is, why even marry you when you're going to wind up getting rid of me anyway? Come on, y'all don't want me to go. Y'all don't want me to go. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. See, I get like this and my mind starts going when I have somebody come into my office and they're thinking about a divorce. And they say to me, Dr. Short, I'm trying to hold on, but my needs are not being met and I'm struggling financially. And what am I to do? But when they come into my office, I have to remind them of my divine purpose. And that is saving Black marriages. I dedicated a whole website to that, savingblackmarriages.com. Go check it out. Because I understand the deconstruction of the Black family unit. And I understand how we must be reconstructed. And I also understand that this is not going to happen overnight, because I'm aware that it took 3 to 4 generations for us to get to where we are right now today. But I understand, sisters, that sometimes it's too hard to hold on. I understand it. I understand it. But there's a war. There's a war, my brothers and sisters, on Black men. And we don't like to hear this because we have been socially engineered not to accept it. We have been conditioned and programmed not to accept it. See, we don't necessarily hear these things and we take to the research books, right? We don't necessarily go to the books and start looking back and to understand these things. We don't necessarily study to show ourselves approved, but I am not a therapist that is unstudied. On my daily list is books. Books so I can improve what I'm doing, right? Books like Black Fathers, right? Books like Diversity in Couples Therapy. See, you're not going to people that understand what we are doing. If you're not going to people that can understand the condition that our people are under, right, then you're going to perpetuate it. You're going to perpetuate it. I'm always increasing my knowledge. The anxiety cure, right? How do I help them? Right? How do I help them? Because I can't only function and operate in my own mind and in my own thinking. I have to have understanding that leads my thoughts, that educates me, that helps me to be a better therapist. I have to have that kind of understanding. The Black man, there's a war on him. And it's showing up with unemployment and underemployment. It's showing up with them not being breadwinners. And so now they got to deal with this psychologically, spiritually, mentally, and physically, with them not being able to provide for their family. And then seeing a woman stress the hell out because now she got to carry the weight of the world. She has to educate herself in order for her to be employed. She has to do so many things. And he's watching it, but he's not watching this and being happy about it. He's watching it and he's mentally breaking down because he's trying his best, but he is under attack, whether you like to believe it or not. We got the undereducated men. We got those who've been subjected to mass incarceration. Then we have the men who were raised by other boys, who were raised without fathers, who have the code of the street and the code of relationships and how they are to act and how they're not to act. And they have all these belief systems in their head that tell them otherwise as it relates to marriage and relationships. But they don't even realize that their minds themselves have been programmed, because they too have watched their mommies and their grandmas raise them without men in the home. So there are possible solutions. I'm a minute over. I'm a minute over. I can't stay on here too long. I'm hoping that you guys have since shared the video. I'm hoping that you guys have subscribed to us here on Fly Nubian Queen, because we are going to bring you the information that you need. There are possible solutions. There is either we're going to focus on mainstream or Eurocentric ideas of marriage, the mainstream standard of marriage, that is, have a big wedding, have a fancy engagement, get a really big ring, legalize and legitimize your relationship, because if not, it means nothing. Subscribe to some socially inhibiting rules and habits. That's the mainstream standard. Or we can focus on the success of our relationships that we are currently in. Focus on the success of our relationships. Focus on our relationships exhibiting stability, longevity, right? Cooperative parenting and child rearing. Mutual respect and understanding. Love and affection. We can focus on those things that make a healthy, successful relationship, or we can continue to stress our brothers out for marriage. Marriage in a system that neither of us fully understand. So I know right now some of my sisters have internal kiting with, do I stay or do I leave? If he's not going to marry me, do I stay or do I leave? They're waiting for marriage, yet and still they're demonstrating toughness and perfection, and not realizing that all that is a coping mechanism, because they too are under stress. But I encourage my brothers and sisters to find the space to be free of external pressures. Find the space to be free. Free yourself of other people's expectations on your life, other people's expectation of when and your long-term boyfriend are going to get married. Free yourself of all of that stress and study to show yourself approved. Because when we don't free ourselves of that stress And when we start to pressure our men into marriage and pressure them to legitimize the relationship, we don't realize that unintentionally we start to marginalize the Black man. And the Black man is becoming invisible. Invisible within our families and invisible in our communities. They're walking away because we are all dealing with post-traumatic stress. We're all dealing with it. And we have to recognize the generational patterns that have existed in some of our families for 3 to 4 generations. And we have to understand the systemic structures of these patterns that we are seeing in our families in order for us to properly break these patterns. And if we don't understand it, we're going to repeat them. And our children are going to repeat them. And our daughters and our sons are going to become parents before they're able to provide. And they're going to lack understanding of the importance of the Black family unit. That's all I have for you guys today, my brothers and sisters. That's all I have for you guys today. I encourage you guys to follow me here on Fly Nubian Queen. Make sure you share the video, like and follow me here on this page. Go to our website. Go to our website and subscribe so you can be notified. And if you want to hear more of my histories and what I teach people, you can always come over to my page, which is Dr. Shawna. You just put in at Dr. Shawna, SHONNA, and you will find me over there. My last name is Etienne, so it's Shawna Etienne, Dr. Shawna Etienne. You can find me there. Make sure you share the video. I do relationship talk every Thursday and Friday at 3:00 p.m. to 4:00 p.m. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be on tomorrow because tomorrow is the Turkey Day. But I will be back on Friday at 3:00 p.m. with relationship talk. I love every last one of you guys. I don't always come on this network right here to teach. I'm always teaching on Dr. Shawna. So everybody who follows me there, they're already used to my shenanigans. But I love you guys. There's a reason why I do what I do. And when you guys get the opportunity, go ahead and check out my website. One of my websites, I have plenty, but go ahead and check out savingblackmarriages.com. Again, that website is savingblackmarriages.com. And there you can find some of the history and the timeline, a very powerful timeline that will take you through our history of how we were constructed as a family unit, how we were destructed as a family unit, and what we have to do to reconstruct ourselves healthy. Y'all have a blessed one.